Well, while everybody's good afternoon, everybody. While everybody's joining, I will maybe start my very brief introduction. My name is Svetlana Mikhailovska, and I'm Deputy Director of the European Business Association. I'm responsible for advocacy and our committee's activities within the association. And one of the committees hosting today's event is our Energy Committee. So we will talk about different topics today, but the major focus would be on gas market in Ukraine and the current circumstances we are passing through. So I really happy to see my peers, my colleagues, my friends, and our very honored speakers today. And let me introduce them. Predgar Grzužić, Energy Community Secretariat. Justin Gunesinge, Gas Sector Lead USAID, Ukraine Energy Security Project. Victoria Aldukhina, Economic Growth Office USAID. Andriy Nesterenko, as well USAID. Michael Grossman, Associate at Baltic Management, Energy Expert. Alena Pavlenka, President and of Analytical Center, Dixie Group. So, colleagues, Russia's invasion of Ukraine in February has sent energy and food prices soaring, enduring the spending power of consumers while threatening to unleash an energy crisis that leaves manufacturers and, of course, households short of gas over the coming winter. And this Monday already, the energy giant of Russia, Gazprom, announced the drastic reduction of supplies, which will make it harder and constiller for Europe, for whole Europe, to build up gas reserves ahead of winter. Gas deliveries via Nord Stream fell on Wednesday to 20%, according to the German operator. Cascade and capacity amplifying worries about winter shortages across Europe. But on the front line, we have Ukraine, our infrastructure. And I'd like to ask, first of all, Mr. Grzužić about his views, what he sees, and from international perspective, the current situation on the EU gas market and plans for heating season and tools for preparation for the next period. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Svetlana. Please call me Predrag. Predrag Grujic. I'm head of gas unit here in the Energy Community Secretariat. I know majority of our participants, and I wish you, first of all, that you're all safe and healthy. And you know that we are here in the Secretariat helping as much as we can Ukraine by establishing also a trust fund also for Ukraine, managing it, accepting Ukrainian colleagues who unfortunately had to become refugees in Europe, and so on. And of course, we are very much following what's happening in Ukraine, and my management as well on a daily basis. Just a couple of sentences. You mentioned the European perspective. I think that you all know that Europe is, of course, in an emergency mode, that we are talking mainly about security of supply on a daily basis. And there were some tools adopted in the European Union, which should at least mitigate or reduce the risk of halt of the Russian supplies and how they can make up for that. But this is another topic. It's very complex, about infrastructure storage proposal, about gas reduction plans. All of this, except the gas reduction plans, which will probably not be adopted in the energy community, are somehow part of the energy community or are going to become part of the energy community. We are very thankful that Ukraine is presidency this year of the energy community, and we will have an urgency procedure still in August, hopefully, to have storage amendment part of our legal framework, which will allow for filling of the targets to be obligatory in our contracting parties, and they will ask for certification of storage system operators in contracting parties which possess them. I don't see a big problem here for Ukraine. I see actually an opportunity that it can offer waste storage capacities, at least to contracting parties, and maybe to some member states. We will still see how this legal proposal will look like after the Commission adopts it still in the next couple of days. This is enormous urgency. Usually we need 2, 3, or even more years to transpose some acquis, and in this case it will be only a couple of weeks. So this is how urgent this is. About repower, Ukraine is part of all these regional groups. We are helping them, especially to unlock the bottlenecks in capacities, not, infrastructure-wise, but regulatory-wise. I'm talking here more or less about how LNG can come to Ukraine from the south, from the north, and from the west, from Croatia, Greece, Turkey, and Poland. And our work on Trans-Balkan pipeline is still, it still needs to be finished. So this is a little bit about the international perspective. And of course, Europe just recently adopted the gas reduction plans, which will have, it's a compromise, but they can save up to 30 billion cubic meters per day. And as you know, and Ukraine is always part of this, we are having a daily communication with the TSOs in Europe, identifying how these supplies will go, where the infrastructure bottlenecks. There are many, not only in the Eastern Europe, we discovered there are also between France and Germany, between France and Spain. So the Eastern Europe is not, we thought that the bottlenecks are only in the Eastern Europe, but it's not the case. The bottlenecks in Eastern Europe and the Southern Europe are also regulatory ones, as you know very well. So, and coming back to perspective for Ukraine for this winter, there are two aspects, of course. We are very much concerned that, first of all, that you will enter into this heating season at least safe. And I'm relatively optimistic because domestic production is still more or less in your hands with 90%, and the storage level is relatively, it's not particularly enthusiastic, but I think with the gas reduction, which occurred because of, unfortunately, industry is shutting down, that you might survive heating season in a good shape and even offer some gas stored gas maybe to some other countries on a commercial basis, of course, to Moldova, for example, which will be, in our opinion, the most exposed contracting party. I don't have to tell you why. They have Gazprom in their main supplier company. They don't have any domestic production. They have no storages, and they are one of the poorest countries also in Europe. As regards the market conditions in Ukraine, here I'm not optimistic. Unfortunately, the impressive work that we together achieved with you in the last 7 years is somehow, I wouldn't say reversed, but definitely tarnished with lots of interventions. We understand the government needed to secure the customers, and it intervened everywhere it could. But whether this was a balanced approach, whether this could not be better organized, I'm not 100% convinced that this was the best outcome. We see that Naftogaz is announcing some kind of bankruptcy, that the gas TSO is not in the best shape, to put it mildly. The distribution companies are facing also huge problems, and so on and so forth. The only bright picture I can imagine would be our cooperation now with Ukretransgaz and with the storage operator and with the regulator, and I hope that this certification would come up nicely. But for the market, we always advise our Ukrainian government, our partners in the Ukrainian government, to target these interventions only to protect the most vulnerable and not to distort market to the extent possible. We will see what will be left from this market once very liquid and vibrant and with huge potential in Ukraine. But I have to say that in Europe, the situation is not much better, that many member states intervene very unwisely and very untargetedly in the market, and we shall see the consequences in the next years. Of course, everybody is now only concerned how to survive this winter, so we are. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just a short question after your speech. Those reductions announced by EU, I mean, this is more like a political announcements. Do you think they are manageable? Because me personally, I haven't seen any concrete action plans to be just general statements in terms of public buildings or civil society awareness, etc.
There is a legal act. A regulation was adopted on this Tuesday. So this was a very urgent measure, which for the first time, I think, triggered by the EU treaty, which excluded European Parliament. So this is something. This is very almost like martial law, if you wish, for the European Union. So only the Council, only member states in Council and the Commission actually exchange dialogue. And there is a legal obligation which says that the EU can, in an alert situation, asked by at least 2 member states or on its own initiative, impose mandatory reduction of consumption by 15%, 15%, with lots of exemptions to many member states, to island states like Ireland, to member states which are having anyhow problems to pass this liberated gas from reduction to other member states, like the case Spain to France, they have some exemptions, or countries like the Baltic countries and Greece would be exempted from reductions because their consumption is mainly used for electricity production, which is also then you would create another problem. So this regulation, in my opinion, would be mainly effective to the Central European countries like Germany, Austria, the Netherlands, Belgium, who were anyhow pro this reduction. Only one country, unfortunately, voted against, and you know which country that was Hungary. And Hungary will have probably its own emergency and reduction plans, maybe even banning export of gas to other member states, which is absolutely against the EU treaty. But this is the situation as it is, and we in the energy community cannot anyhow cope with member states. We can only deal with our contracting parties.
Clear enough. Thank you very much. Let me pass the floor to colleagues from USAID. What's your view on the current situation, on perspectives and developments of energy markets in Ukraine? And what do you think should be done immediately and maybe mid and long-term perspective in terms of further push of reforms that were launched long before? Thank you.
Hello. Yes, my name is Andriy Nesterenko. I'm from USAID, but I'm not. I need to admit that I'm not an expert in the gas market. I oversee other sectors, subsectors of the energy sector, such as district heating, which relies very much on gas supply. Actually, my American colleagues asked me to join this meeting because they could not participate. Therefore, I'm more like in a listening mode. But we have like a representative from our implementing partner who works on behalf of USAID to reform the energy sector, including the gas market, Vadim Birshenko, and I hope that he has more comments. Thank you.
Yes, please.
Yeah, it's me, but please call me back in an hour, please. Yeah.
It's Michael. It's not colleague from USA, but okay. Let me pass the floor to Michael then. Okay, Michael, the floor is yours. Your view, your maybe some forecasts, and
yeah.
Will we successfully survive this heating season? Or what do you think should be done in the very immediate terms and maybe to be more on the safe side for the upcoming periods. Thank you.
Okay.
And
well,
what maybe Michael, maybe you may also cover some issue with regards to support of Ukraine, and what do you think should be done more, or maybe you think it's already enough?
yeah, I will just make a few disjointed comments on different issues and improvise on what has been said and what you have asked me, since I haven't prepared any presentation. So regarding the upcoming winter, which you asked me about, obviously the science does not allow us to make long-term forecasts to answer, let's say, 3 months into the future, whether it will be a severe winter or not. This is a very crucial answer, a very crucial question, because gas is the most temperature sensitive of energies, and this is particularly true in Europe and in Ukraine as well. All one can say to have some kind of a beginning of an answer is that there are some, let's say, 10-year cycles, La Nina, El Nino, and another cycle called AMO, which would tend to indicate, let's say, a high likelihood of a unseasonably cold winter, unfortunately. There's nothing we can do about this. Just bear in mind this risk. As far as what can be done to prepare, well, for this coming winter, I cannot say, but more generally, the destruction this war has brought upon Ukraine. Of course, it's a tragedy, but within every tragedy, there's also some opportunity to do things better for the long term. So I'm talking, several years down the road. Perhaps, well, Ukraine, like many, let's say, former Soviet countries, has developed gas grids and heating networks at, let's say, with a certain capacity, which is maybe no longer needed, both in terms of transportation capacity and also, well, reflecting what were then the costs, the cost of natural gas relative to the other energies like electricity. That's one thing. And regarding heating networks, well, they may be, let's say, a rational choice in colder climates colder than Ukraine, say in Scandinavia. But there's a fundamental problem with heating networks beyond, of course, the network losses, which is that if you have a heating network, individual consumers do not respond to individual price signals, because everybody gets the same amount of heat. It's difficult to measure and bill individually for heat. Therefore, wherever there's been destruction, maybe I would say the question of whether heating networks is justified has to be put on the table and perhaps replaced with, at the very least, well, maybe individual gas-fired heating or electrical heating. And of course, wherever there's reconstruction, new norms have to be applied in terms of energy efficiency of buildings. So new buildings will have to be built at, let's say, European levels of energy efficiency as measured in terms of kilowatt hours consumed per square meter per year. So basically, Ukraine's energy sector should be also ready to build back better, so to speak.
Sorry, just a minor intervention from my side, just to confirm what have been said by you. Actually, within the association, we just recently launched a new committee on Recovery Ukraine. And companies also mentioned that one of the priority for Ukraine is to build, because lots of cities in Ukraine we will have to build from the scratch. So those new buildings may become like a role model for new highest level energy saving standards in terms of construction. So you're absolutely right.
Good. I wasn't aware of that. So, but that's so we agree on that. But I'm also questioning the advisability of heating networks in countries such as Ukraine at its latitude, and now that prices are high, I mean, one has to, let's say the laws of the market have to bear fruit. There has to be a price signal, and it is difficult to convey a price signal when the price and the costs are socialized. So yeah, heating networks may be good for, let's say, for your campuses or for military barracks or for big hospitals, but not for residentials in most cases. So that's why this is something that needs to be put on the table. I'm saying this because many projects that I've seen, like by the EBRD or the World Bank, and I don't mean to criticize them, but they are bent on fixing the heating networks of such and such cities. And these are gas-fired networks. So one has to also think of, let's say, getting out of gas on the long term. So this is an opportunity. Of course, some in the Scandinavian countries, heating networks also run on wood, which is not so much of an option in the case of Ukraine. So again, there's of course the heat efficiency standards that need to be enacted and made mandatory for everything that's rebuilt. And there's also the question of individual heating versus collective heating that needs to be reassessed. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. You almost covered all my questions in terms of post-war recovery as well. So let me pass the floor to Alena.
Can we ask
Alena,
questions?
would you please?
Sorry.
Yes, sure, please.
I have a question for Michael. So
yes, you may just to be it more or less regular discussion, regulated discussion or moderated discussion. Would you please raise your hand on reactions below or write in your chats just in advance?
Okay, I just wanted to ask now or later. Yes, sure. Okay, I understand.
Yes, okay. Okay, Andrei, now you can go ahead.
Okay, I just wanted to double check. So you, Michael, you're arguing for the need to reassess the central heating networks, whether they should be like rehabilitated or kept, or they should be converted, dismantled, and the district heating system should be converted to individual heating. Is it correct?
Yeah, I'm saying that the question of central versus individual heating, and if individual heating, electric versus gas, has to be reassessed in those cities that have been destroyed in part or in full. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, thank you.
Yes,
I
thank
think
you.
that. Okay, I will comment later. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let me pass the floor to Olena with her presentation, and maybe afterwards we may also discuss with all the participants. Olena, the floor is yours.
Yes, I will try to be very short, but I thought that having the presentation will help a bit to be on the same page, because the question which was asked to us was quite broad. So, but let's go quickly through the slides. So just to remind you that Europe is 80% dependent on import, and Russia has 30–40% share in this. So the gas wars, which happened before in Ukraine and now is happening in Europe, this is partially a result of such dependency from Russia, which is higher than 30%, which is demanded by the diversification rule. And Acer recently has published a really good natural gas monitoring report when it explained actually how this gas wars or price wars last year and this year was connected to Russian, let's say, geopolitical ideas and demands. So they just marked and showed how fluctuations in prices and jump in prices were connected to Nord Stream 2 issues or to the issues of shortage of gas supply to European markets, which is, again, it's just again and again explains and proves Ukraine's statements for years that having business with Russia in gas sector is really dangerous, and you have to keep this in mind when you sign contracts with Russia. As actually Predrag already said, there was a decision, and actually it was a decision in March, but then later it was elaborated more by the European Commission. And primarily the idea was that 2/3 of gas import from Russia should be cut by the end of this year. So the idea was that in 2023, Europe will buy only 1/3 of Russian gas than before. It is not happening as of now because Europe already has bought, I think, more than 40 BCM of gas. So this goal will not be fulfilled by the end of this year. But later, with this Repower EU program, which Predrag actually mentioned, the European Commission explained how they want to replace this Russian gas. Partially, it is a gas diversification through the LNG and also through pipeline gas from North Africa, for example. Partially, this is energy efficiency. Partially, this is switching to other sources of power generation. What we were talking actually today, from gas to coal, for example. Yes, I just wanted to show you, this is what also Predrag was talking about, the goals and the measures which you, Svetlana, was asking, what exactly European Commission proposed to member states. So, and for industry, actually, they proposed to switch from gas to other sources. Also, they asked industry to reduce of consumption where it is possible, of course, and look for possible swaps, contract swaps, or interruptible contracts, or get some support aid, state aid from their governments. And regarding, as you also said, public awareness campaigns, where you can see this reduced heating and cooling part of the list of the propositions, which was exactly the public awareness campaign to be prepared, to prepare to the more colder winter, to reduce consumption of gas in heating and in cooling in the households. And some countries like Germany already started this public awareness campaigns. I don't know in what other countries such campaigns are going on, but I believe that quite a lot of international mass media already are writing about this. Regarding replacement of Russian gas with LNG, this is a sort of fresh monitoring from European Commission. They actually show how the Russian gas is replacing with gas from Nigeria, from Algeria, from Egypt. So they are trying to replace Russian gas as much as possible, which is good. And coming to the Ukrainian market, I have to say that what has happened during the war, maybe very briefly, what I have mentioned, but if I'm pretty sure that some of the EBA members can also add to this. So we have what is really important, the closure of data. We do not have access to a lot of data to make a really good assessment of the market as of now, which is good. Okay, it's okay in the wartime. So regulator prohibited access to registries, and some of procurements are happening without Prozoro. We have increased regulation in gas and electricity markets because we have moratorium on gas and heating tariff for households, and not only for them. We have prohibition to demand debt payment for communal services. This is a law which was adopted yesterday by the parliament. Yes, we have ban on gas export from Ukraine, and everything what we produce, we have to inject in our gas storages. And just today, there was a news that Ministry of Energy expect that there will be around 18.6 BCM of gas production this year, in comparison to 20 plus BCM in previous years. Lack of liquidity, we have around 30% decrease of payment for households and for businesses. And I told already about the gas production, increased the share of the state companies in the sector, or just to remind that the 26 gas distribution companies were transferred to Chornomornaftogaz, which is still part of the Naftogaz. And there was also a law which increased state influence in the corporate governance. I also have found some news which still should be proved by official someone from official bodies, that Ukraine is going to stop virtual reverse flow, to stop buying gas through the virtual reverse flow, and is going to buy gas only through the physical reverse flow from Slovakia and Poland. So probably it might be not so easy now to fill the gas storages, but nevertheless, I personally more or less optimistic regarding the preparatory for the winter season, and I see quite a lot that the government Naftogaz is doing something to already prepare for the winter season. And talking about what factors may influence the situation in the gas sector in winter, Michael already said the temperature. Of course, the situation with the war, if it improves and if we win, for example, there will be more information and more data available. The level of the gas in the storages, and how many people will come back to Ukraine. Because if we have more people back to Ukraine, we will have a bit more consumption than we will have now. And again, according to the Ministry of Energy, this is today's information, they expect more than 20 BCM of consumption, which is really much less than 30 BCM, which was before. I will stop here, and we'll be happy to answer all the questions.
Yes, thank you. I see Michael has raised his hand. So Michael, please, you have comments, questions?
Yeah. Well, it is, you can either take it as a comment or as a question. I'm surprised that Naftogaz decided, well, first of all, to seize, in effect, gas distribution networks, which it does not own because they were privatized. Granted, it was under the Yanukovych government, but still it was a due process. And then the decision to hand it over to Chornomornaftogaz, which is geographically or traditionally in Simferopol, so in annexed occupied territory, firstly, and secondly, Chornomornaftogaz is essentially a gas producing company, or it was until it was bombed. So, I mean, the business of producing gas is not the business of distributing gas and running operating a network. So it doesn't really make sense. And I was wondering if maybe Olena could comment on why hand it over to a company that is in the upstream? Why hand this asset? Well, first of all, what's the legality of doing that? And secondly, why hand it over, namely to this particular affiliate of the Naftogaz group? That's my comment and my question at the same time.
Yeah, I'm happy to comment. I see people from the regional gas companies here. If they want to add, I'm pretty sure they have a lot to add here. But what I can comment that these 26 assets of the 26 companies were recognized as assets which are owned by pro-Russian oligarchs, Mr. Firtash. That's why they were transferred to the government through ARMA, the institution. And then government decided that it should be kept, or someone should manage this, because Naftogaz, that's my assumption, Naftogaz cannot keep this by itself, because Naftogaz also is a producer of gas, yes, and you should keep this division among the different types of activities. There was a decision to pass it to Chornomornaftogaz, which is not now based in Simferopol. It is now has office in Ukraine, of course. Yeah. This is more just a legal issue. Okay. But probably in the future, I think I don't know what was the decision, but I assume that in the future this should be somehow solved. So after the war, because again, in the war we cannot decide on how to build the future of these networks. This is a temporary solution, and then after the war, probably there will be a sort of privatization or other decisions what to do and how to manage these networks. I see the regional gas companies already would like to comment.
Yes, regional gas company Igor Gosek, please comment.
Hello everybody. Once again, thank you for giving me an opportunity to comment on this. Actually, I wanted actually to start from the other crucial topic is recovery, reforms, and so on. And I'll start with this and then get back to the issues that were discussed and mentioned a couple of times in our company as well. So speaking about the current state of play and the reforms and the reforms perspective, I guess that there is, and everybody can maybe agree on this, that in the gas sector, there is a big threat of rollback of reforms of the almost 10 years of reforms that were more or less performed, and the results before the war were actually quite optimistic in certain spheres, and everybody was actually expecting to continue these reforms. And yeah, we see that there is a state interference during the war to support the households. It's totally clear for us. And we from our side are doing almost, and not more than should be done. I'm speaking about the distribution sector, that every day rocket attacks and shellings occur in almost all regions of Ukraine, and the gas distribution companies and gasmen are repairing the networks, same as the electricity guys, but today we speak about gas as well, and they risk their lives actually by restoring gas supply, restoring the networks in the occupied regions, and even after the right after the shellings, because especially when the winter is coming, we should keep the gas system properly operating to provide a stable and safe gas supply. This is our priority, and that's why we are quite active on the international perspectives and looking for some support in materials and equipment for our companies that are working on the RGC brand, because those those quantity of materials are very limited, and those materials that were in the warehouses before the war and at the beginning of the war, they are very limited. So that's why we need quite simply pipes, fittings, welding equipment, and so on. So this is crucial aspect. The most crucial aspect is especially in this case, if we speak about the stable gas supply. Speaking about the current situation, I have some maybe insights and some kind of breaking news, because like yesterday we were informed that in a couple of DSOs of RGC brand, they were notified by the email or usual mail that the management team and the board of these DSOs were replaced by a decision of a notary or under the notary, guided by this transferring to Arma, then to Chernomornaftogaz, and then to the Naftogaz. And we don't know actually what will be the next, because here I talk about the gas DSO that are more or less closer to the warfare zone. There's actually a risk of a stable gas supply, because these companies are working not on a political level, they are working on the ground, they are restoring gas networks, and all of this stuff is actually responsible for this. And actually, it was done, as we see this for now, with quite gross violations of corporate rights, with the rule of law, and we see that it looks like a state raiding under the cover of the war, because this is quite like high voices, but we don't actually understand why this is going on, because we live in the legal environment. We have laws, we have courts, we have corporate governance, we have corporate governance law, we have structures, and as well. And if we are talking about the reforms and entering the European gas market and according to the third energy package, I guess that this is crucial actual issues. And if we have just political voices, it's good, but the legal environment should also exist, and it should work. So it's just maybe some emotional reaction, but without any like decision of the anti-monopoly committee, without any approval, the management team was replaced, and we see that there is a risk on this. And one more issue, and then I'll give the floor for some comments and answers. That if the corporate rights were transferred to Arma, then to Chernomornaftogaz in structure of a state-owned company that controls production, supply, distribution as well, it's clear. But then if the management team is replaced by not Chernomornaftogaz officials, but the current employees of Naftogaz, this is not the European practice. It looks like a state raiding and breaching all of the existing laws, corporate rights, rule of law, and so on and so on.
Okay, yes. Well, thank you for your comment, Igor. I see that Michael and Dalena are communicating via our chat. Michael, you still will have your hand raised, so please.
Sorry.
We were talking about. No, that's fine. But
Actually,
yes,
I had another comment, but so regarding the Chernomornaftogaz question, I think I've said everything I had to say. I was wondering, and this is also a question maybe for Olena or for somebody else. I'm wondering what the economic effect will be if the physical gas transit to Ukraine stops or is significantly curtailed. It means that Naftogaz will have to go from virtual transit to reverse flow to physical reverse flows, and this will not be the same cost. It may have a significant effect on the economics of Naftogaz. Well, on formerly on GTSO's activities, but via GTSO on Naftogaz as well, because they, as we know, have an agreement, which is not a public agreement, but there is an agreement whereby GTSO would pay dividends to Naftogaz. So it's an open question, but it is an important one. What will be the economic effects on Naftogaz of this switch from virtual to physical reverse flows? Yeah. I don't have. I'm just putting the question on the table.
Okay, maybe Alena and maybe some other colleagues may also comment
I'm
on
happy
this.
to comment. Again, on Naftogaz and DSOs, I just wanted to comment again that because of the wartime, I think it is really hard now to develop a really, very clear and understandable scheme how to transfer the assets from Russian oligarchs Russian oligarchs ownership to the state. As it was decided. Again, I quote the government decision. This decision of the Council of National Security. So I think, again, this is a more temporary decision, and how then it will be organized, we have to definitely come back to this issue after the war and then discuss it, how to build the proper unbundling process for all the gas market participants and for Naftogaz as well. Regarding the physical gas flow, as I cannot comment a lot here because, as I said, we do not have a lot of data, and we cannot analyze the market now. What I can only say that our gas transmission system operator in public interviews usually said that we are ready for physical gas flow. We were preparing for this scenario already in December last year. So we have a possibility to physically import gas through Slovakia and through Poland. And I think the gas import starts from Slovakia already from today. So regarding the payments and how much it will cost for Naftogaz, again, cannot comment. I don't know, but maybe the negotiations regarding so-called gas land lease, which was announced by Prime Minister and NAK Naftogaz even in May, are connected somehow to this plans.
Thank you, Igor.
Yeah, I would like to briefly comment on our situation and then about the gas imports. So speaking about the case of the transferring of rights of DSOs, I will not comment the political side of this issue because this is not the objective of today's discussion and not on my personal agenda. So if we speak about the case of the criminal case that is under investigation, which is crucial, there is no final decision of a court. There's just an investigation against not the DSOs, but against the Ministry of Energy officials of transferring and letting gas DSOs to use and not to pay for gas networks. Our position, it was quite publicly discussed in certain meetings, is quite simple, that if the state wants private businesses to pay for state property, which is normal and it's common practice, in our regulated business, the tariff is set by the energy regulator, and this is the only one source of financing for gas DSOs. And if the state, in the face of energy regulator, wants to impose additional payment for gas networks, they should be prescribed in the gas distribution tariffs. It's quite simple and I guess understandable for all experts. The tariff of gas distribution companies is open, transparent. It can be checked by everyone at the official website of energy regulator. And this tariff doesn't prescribe actually payment for gas networks. And the matter of the case is not that gas DSOs are using these networks free of charge. By the way, DSOs were officially appealed to the Ministry of Energy to provide inventory and pay for these assets because more than 50% of networks are owned by the state. and the tariff is a political issue. And when we come to the tariff, then it looks like real politics when we cannot increase tariffs because of politics. But this is actually influencing our market. And then I will comment on energy and gas imports as well. So we see that from the distribution perspective as well, the gas consumption has fallen. I don't have actually figures for now, but this is simple that the gas consumption has fallen, and most probably we need to import, or actually to provide some volumes of gas. But the question is, why should we import gas if we have a natural gas produced in Ukraine by private companies, which is actually in the storage, because gas export from Ukraine is forbidden for now. This is not our business, but this is actually one of the questions that are in the expert community. So private companies cannot export gas from Ukraine. They can store them in the storages, and then the government decides that we should import gas or buy this gas from private producers. I don't know, because the law was passed actually yesterday, and how it will work, and will this gas be purchased by the state, we don't know. So this is actually one of the
Thank you. Thank you, Igor. I saw Predgar has some comments. Yeah, please comment.
I have millions of questions now, but this is not a platform. I'm this is, yeah, but let me just say a couple of things. As regards this distribution assets, I believe this will be resolved in the court. This is beyond the gas key of the energy community. This is one thing. The second thing, you cannot ban export of gas, and I was living in a conviction that in June this decision was actually abolished by the government. Without this, the traders will never come to Ukraine and will never store any gas in the Ukrainian storages. Third, imposing, the tariffs. I understand what Igor says. This is always linked to political issues, but it must not be. So it must be really a sovereign decision of very competent NERC that you have. Unfortunately, we saw that there were some pressures to NERC, and that this distribution tariff could not be raised for some distribution system operators. It was so marginal, it was so insignificant now when you compare it with the prices of gas at the exchanges, that this I have never understood why this was not the case. And we have always been raising this issue as one of many pieces of the problems in Ukraine, which could help in resolving the balancing problem with the gas TSO. Finally, to Michael's concerns about these virtual flows and reverse flows, in our understanding, since ever in the last couple of years, Slovakia, Poland, Hungary, they always provided gas to Ukraine via this separate infrastructure, Budince, for example, or Belgorod, which was always physical reverse flow. So the tariffs were always there, and I'm not aware, and it was expressed explicitly the big problem between Slovakian and Ukrainian parties that we could not have virtual flow through Velké Kapušany and Užhorod, never. So I don't think that even in worst case scenario that transit really stops. The infrastructure capacities that Slovakia, Poland, and Hungary offer on a formally or even informally, there are always higher capacity levels that they would offer to you. This is, I believe, under the regular tariffs. And again, we are talking here about euro or two per megawatt hour, and we have prices of gas which are 100 and 200 euros per megawatt hour. So this is really a very small percentage of the whole bill. Thanks.
Thank you very much. I've been informed that some of our participants and speakers have to leave just in a couple of minutes. We mostly covered the general point of this topic, and I would say that generally speaking, the questions are still there. This heating season will be hard, not only for Ukraine, but for the whole Europe. And the only way for us is to think about gas consumption reduction, that's for sure. But another major point just to mention and outline here, I may support Igor, who mentioned those reforms that should proceed and should not be reversed for sure. And as to post-war recovery, maybe it's too premature to talk about this, but we should start talking about this right now and already plan it, because we believe that it should be soon. That, of course, without international partners, and thank you for doing what you're doing right now and for all your support, but we will need your support further. And I wish all of us victory, soon victory, and warm winter, both in Ukraine and all EU countries. Alena, Michael, Predgar, Igor, and all colleagues who participated today, thank you very much, and let's keep in touch. We will talk a bit later, maybe on other sessions. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. All
Thank
the
you.
best.
Thank
Bye,
you, everybody.
Svetlana.
Bye-bye.
Yes.